Welcome, my name is Brian Green. I'm the Managing Director of Gigajam. Gigajam was set up to provide the opportunity for all students to learn to play a musical instrument, limited to guitar, bass, keyboards and drums, but I think that covers a lot of popular instruments, and with the idea that we would use technology to enable students to develop tangible and transferable skills that wouldn't limit them to these instruments ultimately, but provide them with the transferable and tangible skills that they could move on into other forms of music making, other genres and other instruments, as well as other activities. We think technology is very important because there is an issue of scale, cost and reach, and technology has been used for years and well understood, has an ability to increase the scale and the effectiveness of our workforce and create efficiencies in being able to get to more people. So the reason for the presentation specifically at this point is the government's response to the Henley review, and that it has stated a desire for a national music plan to be put in place. There are obviously key stakeholders involved in that, and we think with recommendation 33, which wants to look at how technology can be harnessed, that there is a requirement for a digital component that can be added to the concept of music education hubs. So what I'd like to do is actually talk about what a digital component could look like within a vision and discuss with you possible models. So to this end, I've started with some assumptions, and forgive me for that, I know it's always dangerous, but I've started with some assumptions that, for instance, music education hubs are likely to be managed by a single provider. That they will be powered though by a partnership of providers, likely to include a significant mix of music services, art council organisations, regularly funded organisations and other local music providers. Hubs conceptually don't necessarily have to be a single location like a music service centre or a music centre. They can be a consortium, so build on strengths of local provisions. You may have a secondary school that could act as part of the hub, a spoke for instance, which may have a large and really useful playing area, large performance area. It could be great for orchestras, large ensembles. You may have another school that has already got a lot of equipment invested in, say, ICT, or it may have great rooms for practicing. So trying to bring in within the local area the assets and resources that could be conjoined to provide a hub. I'm also mindful that when you do have locations, then there are issues of transport and travel between these. We know from our experience with city learning centres that many issues crop up in terms of availability and access because of transport, breaking up curriculum time, etc. And therefore I think it's an absolutely essential component that we have an online support mechanism there, so that if people can't get to these locations, that they can at least have a foundation access to a hub virtually. So in an ideal world, perhaps we're looking at a mixture of all three: a central hub, some spokes, and wrapped up with an online virtual hub support. I think within a consortium there is a great opportunity there for us to provide both a breadth of music making opportunities, because we don't wish to prescribe from a supplier-led point. We wish to respond to the needs of students and schools, and I also think it provides an opportunity to provide distinctive offers. So you may have a centre that specialises in music technology and delivering teaching through technology. You'll have another centre that may deal with traditional music. We may have one that deals with world music, etc. So I think this provides us with that opportunity to have great breadth yet distinction, which is of course one of the main difficulties of providing a broad and varied curriculum that's going to support all of the music making that we wish to support and encourage. Ultimately, I'm assuming that the main desired outcome is the improvement in the quality of our music system, providing a cogent approach that makes our total music workforce greater than the sum of its parts. It's bringing together classroom music teachers, peripatetic music teachers, external providers of all sorts, their skills, the regularly funded organisations and the orchestras, who can bring together more than they can do individually. And I think joining it up is where perhaps the online digital aspect of it can provide an awful lot for our schools. So let me just give you an idea, a little model of what that might look like, and it is only a might, it's not a prescription. So, you know, the concept of a music education hub, local authority, maybe music service administered and led, with other providers involved. Now, that could physically support the schools that are closest to its location. It could then also look at providing support for a hub, another hub, a consortium member, which provides something unique and distinct. Or another one. There may be more, maybe a multiple of these. But the idea that they can all be able to access online resources. So wherever you are within a local authority, you can always get to the online music school, even if you can't get to the main hub, Consortium Hub 1, Consortium Hub 2, or whatever, you can always get online. And I think that's really important. Additionally, what that does is it crosses the boundary of traditional education to homes. And we may look at, you know, what kind of physical locations may be involved in hubs. They may be community centres, not necessarily schools, but the idea is that everything is connected through a wide area network. Now, I'm very keen on the idea of consortium models myself, but what I want to interrogate here is the realities of students and teachers being able to access a central location, and why it's very important for us to consider a wide distributed learning model. So at the top of this pyramid here, which I've drawn with a distributed learning model, I'm talking about a physical hub, perhaps consortium hubs, school spokes, and an online hub. I think that probably relatively small numbers, although they may be large numbers, but relatively small numbers can, in comparison to the total pupil population, will have access and be able to regularly attend a centre. I think that's the nature of it, always been that way, and I think that's always going to be the case. And also there's going to be a limit to what one place can actually offer, realistically. Space, noise, expertise. These are the limitations on the resources that we can offer. So that'll be at the top of the pyramid. And I'm not talking about excellence in this particular issue. I'm just talking about the top of the pyramid and what that's likely to be able to deal with capacity-wise. Secondly, those types of hubs we may be able to get more people through when we're looking at offering shorter courses. So people may then not come on a weekly basis, but may come for 10 weeks through a term, or they may come 6 weeks through a holiday, or attend a half-term club or Easter holidays, etc. So short courses. So you get more people that way actually attending the hubs. Then there may be another way to reach more people, but not as regularly, which will be through short courses, which may well be events that we run on behalf of teacher training. So that may be a twilight, it may be a day, maybe a couple of days course, introduction style taster sessions, or in-depth but very focused learning. It may also be, you know, bring a class along for a day opportunity, but not something that could be sustained because of transport costs or breaking up the curriculum, for instance. So that would include more people yet again in the hub's offer. Then we're talking about a situation where perhaps it's actually not possible to get to the hub realistically, or for one reason or another teachers cannot get to the hub. Therefore we're looking at ensuring that there are opportunities for schools to be involved in hub-like activities, but back at their own location. So that's where schools are delivering curriculum in both extended and enriched environments as well, which may be their own after-school club, lunchtime offers, out of hours, etc. But they're not going to be attending any of the physical hubs. They're going to be operating back at base as such. And then finally, what about a situation where school simply doesn't have, and this could be the case in a lot of primary schools, they don't have the resources, they don't have the expertise, and therefore there's nothing or very little that can be offered. And therefore we offer this direct to the pupils and the parents, where there is an online learning component that they can do at home. And this way we can guarantee the reach and the scale of whatever music education hub that you offer. You can provide them with a minimum entitlement, effectively. I know that's not a word that quite a lot of people like to use these days, but I think it's important that when we're talking about all children having a chance to learn to play a musical instrument, that we actually accept that it's going to be very difficult for everybody to get the same level of intensity of provision that perhaps we would desire for ourselves. And I think we have to be realistic about what we can offer, and therefore we have to be smarter and we have to use technology. And it also provides us with a great opportunity to say it will be no less than this. And that's not meant to be a reason for not trying our very, very best to provide the very best of services. But we know that resources, funding, is difficult to come by, and we have to deal with those realities. And I think supporting a music education hub with a ubiquitous digital component is absolutely essential to achieving that particular aim. So that will make sure that we have anytime, anywhere access through a variety of programs, going from regular attendance at a hub right down to never going to a hub at all. And therefore that provides a spectrum of directed, across a spectrum of directed to totally self-directed learning. Hopefully every aspect of that covered. I also think that that will be more pupil-centred than saying this is what we can deliver, this is all you can have. Okay, moving on. That being said, I think we have to be rigorous of our demands of a digital component. We mustn't allow it to be just a foundation level of services and go, there you go, there's your entitlement. It must be rigorous and robust. And I think it must be, and the requirements must have at its centre the pupil in mind. It must be robust and rigorous in the content, not just stuff thrown on the web for people to look at. It must have a good methodology. I think, very importantly, it's not just web pages either. I think it's about interactive technology so that people can actually be involved in the learning loop. I'll talk about that in more depth in a moment. I think it needs to be able to demonstrate that it's personalised to the student, that it enables them to have independent study, so they can work in groups on their own and in groups, and they can work on their own as well. And the collaborative and blending elements and opportunities must come within the content. So it's not just about learning your instrument, but how that instrument then relates to other activities, performing in a band, recording and composing. The opportunity then with your skills to transfer into improvising. So I think these are very important. We've got to be very demanding of our digital technology. In addition to that, I also feel it's very important that we try and deal with some of the very key points that were made in the Ofsted Making More of Music report, which is we need to find ways, and I think technology offers great solutions in this area, to providing continuous, formative and summative assessment for our pupils, and technology is absolutely unique in that area. I'm not suggesting that it replaces all forms of assessment, but I do think that technology can remove quite a bit of the terminal assessment, that's how it has to be, because actually it's very difficult to manage learning in any other way when studying music. And I think we can use this now to have our terminal assessments, but also to have our continuous and formative, so that hopefully our outcomes from our terminal assessment are much better and children can learn from going through the course and studying. I think accreditation is also important because we have to demonstrate outcomes. I also think that students should be rewarded for their endeavours throughout their study. We know that learning to play a musical instrument can be a very long journey, and some people simply won't finish the journey that perhaps you or I have finished, or are on our way to finishing. And I think they need to be rewarded and encouraged and celebrated. And I think that if people can achieve debut, and I think grade 1 and grade 2 and grade 3 levels, which is the main drop-off point of grade 3, if we can reward those students and that their time studying the music curriculum is actually rewarded, I think we will get more from them. I think they will be more engaged, and I think they will enjoy their music lessons more. So I think accreditation is relevant in two ways. I think it will make learning music better, more rewarding, but I also think it will drive excellence because it will signpost students' progression and reward them for it. So we're down to the workforce. Technology doesn't operate in a vacuum. It needs to be used by teachers, and I'm very keen that teachers understand that they play an important role in the rollout of technology. Yes, we know that many pupils will pick up computers, will pick up instruments and will be able to get on by themselves, but many will require and benefit enormously from the input of technology and teachers helping them with the technology. So technology doesn't do the work, it's still about good, solid teaching and learning. But our workforce needs to develop the ability of understanding what teaching with technology is about. They need to blend the activities that they do now so effectively with technology, so hopefully that just improves the overall offer and provision. We must make sure that we have continual professional development for our music service staff, who I do see as key in this, but also for our classroom teachers and then our primary generalists. I do feel that there's a big ask on primary generalists. I do think it's a huge undertaking. I don't think an extra day at an initial teacher training college is going to resolve all our problems. So I think there's a big ask on primary generalists, and I'm not convinced that we're going to win that battle quickly. Nor do I actually think it's winnable overall for the vast majority of primary teachers. But I do think that we can develop our music service staff more, and I do think we can develop our classroom music specialisms in secondary school more, and I think they have a bigger and a more impactful role to play with our primary generalists over time. I think that may be a better way of doing it. At the core of this, I'm absolutely convinced that we need to develop the relationship between music services and schools. I do think that the amount of money that is generated by music services from schools demonstrates that the relationship isn't strong enough, that schools are not buying music services at the levels that they need and ought to be purchasing them. And I think this is an historic problem, and I think that needs to change, and we need to see music services operating less outside and around the periphery of schools, often with relationships directly with parents or via the school with parents, and much more so with a relationship with a classroom music teacher. And I think if we're going to have consortium of hubs, those secondary school music teachers need to be brought into the fold. So we need to find a way of building those relationships and making that strong, because I think at the absolute core of this, if we are going to have a cogent solution, it absolutely requires music services and classroom music teachers to work much more hand in glove. Because I think that, you know, at the moment the parts are not making the impact that we need them to make and we desire for them to make. So how does Gigajam work, and can we actually achieve this? Well, it's about working in classrooms, it's about people working on their own, it's about people learning to play an instrument with the aid of technology, hopefully with a teacher, but if a teacher is not available, on their own if they can, if they are able to study, independent study as well. But it's also about blending activities, not just about an isolated transaction between a pupil and the computer and an instrument. It's about blending, and this is why working with teachers is so important, to harness the skills, hopefully transferable, tangible skills that they learn when they're working with the computer, and driving them into performing in a band, as for instance. So they're actually taking that through the learning model, and then on to other activities, which could be recording and composing and improvising, etc. So the technology provides the starting point, not the be-all and end-all. It's the starting point, but it's a point that can be returned to constantly as the student develops their skills higher. But I do think that crucially, blended learning is absolutely essential. Technology doesn't hold a silver bullet here. It isn't a silver bullet. It's a facilitator. Most powerful with a teacher, who blends rewarding, exciting and interesting activities and opens the student up. That's when it's at its most powerful. So what's currently available from Gigajam? Well, guitar, bass, keyboard, drums and theory courses. a lot of material there, goes up to about grade 5 in quality, or extent rather. We have an accreditation program through Arts Award which will reward students, I think, top of primary school, but certainly Key Stage 3 program of study to level 1. It also, when you use it, is being supportive of people teaching with BTEC, music performance courses, and also students who wish to study GCSE but haven't learned or done their grades with a private teacher. So we have official accreditation with Arts Award, but hugely supportive of when students are learning within the curriculum. We've got a good repertoire covering rock, pop, R&B, soul, swing, blues, metal, commercial music. So within the commercial popular arenas, we're there already. We also have dabbled into rock orchestra. That's not teaching orchestral instruments, but it's conjoining what perhaps traditionally may be taking place outside of the classroom with orchestral instruments, bringing those students in with what may be happening within the classroom with the rock and pop pathway we're doing, to get them to play together. And again, this is about Gigajam being a starting point on people's musical journey. You know, some people may start with a violin and end up being a bass guitarist. Gigajam is about providing people with an opportunity to engage in music actively, open their eyes, give them the knowledge that actually there's more out there, and hopefully giving them that springboard to want to do more and more music making across all genres, all styles, and all activities, including music technology. What are our plans? Well, we are planning vigorously to actually get Gigajam accredited at that grade 5 level, but also through some kind of certificate, which will be at a level 2, national qualification level 2, which would be good for schools and their tables, but also provide graded certificates. And we're working at the moment with London College of Music. We're also developing technologies, and interactive technologies, as I said before, I think are incredibly important. Those interactive technologies that help the scale of students being able to develop formative assessment and make progression studying on their own and with a teacher. At the moment we do it through MIDI with popular instruments, which is great for a classroom because it means you can have near silent practice. But we are developing technologies with an institute in Germany that will provide us with the ability to assess acoustic, traditional instruments and polyphonic instruments as well. So that's going to be quite a breakthrough. I have my reservations about independent assessment using acoustic instruments in a classroom environment because of noise. But you know, if we have that technology available, people can start to find ways of how they use that. So why Gigajam? Well, obviously I'm going to say Gigajam is a hugely important and significant player in this area. I think Gigajam offers the opportunity for students and teachers to enable instrumentalists to complete the learning loop. Knowledge, understanding, application, practicing, analysis through interactive technologies, very important, go through that continual formative assessment, and then to synthesize their ideas by playing in a band, with other students, all the social skills that go with that, and then to be able to evaluate. Gigajam does that because we have interactive technologies, because we have assessment, because we have continual assessment, because we have a significant pathway and courses of study which will take students on a very significant journey. That continual formative and summative assessment is absolutely crucial, I believe, in actually guaranteeing that we have a robust and rigorous curriculum that will ensure that our students have tangible and transferable skills that they can demonstrate. I don't think it's good enough to just participate. I think it's more important than that we take it further than that. I think it's important that we deal with the issues of directed to self-directed study. Gigajam does that. Personalised, independent and blended learning. Our programmes offer all of those. Progressive, we've discussed. Sustainable, absolutely. And affordable, absolutely. But used alongside, not in replacement of existing services. Absolutely crucial. We want more. We don't want to replace, we don't want to remove, what we've already got, which has been hard fought. We want to increase the provision, and I think that's where there's a big case for technology to be used. You tack it onto the side and you can increase the scale enormously. Certainly do not replace. So blended use as well. So we talked about hubs, schools, so hub, spoke and home use. Why Gigajam again? Development of our workforce, teaching with technology. Technology is not going away. I know this government hasn't made the big kind of strides for technology, slightly more traditional in its approach, but they will see the value of technology, and teachers will need to become increasingly better at using technology in within their pedagogy. Finally, it's scalable, it's efficient, it's engaging for the vast majority of students, I would argue. It's relevant. I think it's certainly relevant in pop music and what students recognise as music. The majority of students recognise as music, but I hope it starts them on a journey to open their eyes to other music, which I don't think they would do if they're simply left to consume the diet of pop and rock music that they hear on the radio, that they're exposed to. When they get practically involved in rock and pop music, they will realise that there's a whole world out there for them to be involved in, and they will then start to make those connections. So I'm going to stick my neck out on this one, and I think it's actually very relevant, because I think it starts many a student's journey, which can lead anywhere. And I think it's about excellence in opportunity, participation. I also think it's about excellence in raising standards. More students doing better at higher levels. So I hope you found my thoughts interesting. I'm sure they're not perfect. This is a framework on which I'm very keen to develop with partners. I believe it's all about partnerships. I believe Gigajam has a significant and compelling offer, and I do believe in our music services, and I do believe in supporting music providers in expanding our offer to schools and their pupils.